Long ago in the land of Israel, a powerful but troubled story began when King Ahab chose Jezebel as his wife, not knowing how deeply it would shape his nation. Jezebel was a princess from Sidon, raised among people who worshipped Baal, and she grew up confident, bold, and determined to defend her beliefs. When she married Ahab, she did not quietly accept Israel's ways but instead brought her own religion and customs with strong and fearless conviction. Ahab loved her deeply and admired her strength, yet he slowly allowed her influence to pull him away from the worship of the true God of Israel. Soon temples for Baal appeared in Samaria, priests gained favor, and many Israelites began following these new practices out of fear or curiosity. Jezebel believed she was improving the nation, yet her actions quietly pushed the people further from the spiritual path their ancestors once cherished. Prophets who spoke for God warned the king and queen, but Jezebel saw them as threats and often tried to silence their voices completely. Many prophets had to hide in caves or remote villages, hoping to escape her anger while still praying that Israel would return to faith. The nation grew spiritually divided, with some clinging to old traditions while others followed Baal because it seemed safer and politically wise. During this tense time, a prophet named Elijah suddenly appeared, carrying a bold message that would challenge both the throne and the people. Elijah declared that because Israel had turned away from God, there would be no rain for years until God alone decided otherwise. This prophecy shocked the land because rain meant survival, crops, animals, and daily bread, so drought threatened every family and village alike. Jezebel dismissed Elijah at first, assuming her royal authority and Baal worship would protect the kingdom from such a frightening prediction. But as months passed without rain, rivers shrank, fields cracked open, and hunger slowly crept into homes across Israel. People whispered nervously that Elijah's words were coming true, and some secretly wondered if they had abandoned the true source of blessing. Ahab grew restless and anxious, yet Jezebel pushed him to stay strong and continue supporting the prophets of Baal publicly. Despite royal confidence, fear spread widely, and ordinary families struggled daily while hoping for rain that never seemed to arrive. Elijah, meanwhile, lived quietly in hiding, trusting God for food and protection while waiting for the right moment to speak again. Stories about him circulated like rumors, sometimes inspiring hope but sometimes stirring fear because people knew Jezebel wanted him captured. Jezebel believed removing Elijah would solve everything, yet the drought showed that spiritual problems rarely disappear by silencing messengers. Years passed under dry skies, and even strong supporters of Baal began questioning why their prayers brought no visible change. The tension between faiths became sharper, and many Israelites felt torn between loyalty to the crown and loyalty to their heritage. Finally, Elijah returned openly, meeting King Ahab and proposing a public test that would reveal which God truly held power. Ahab hesitated but agreed, perhaps hoping to end uncertainty, while Jezebel remained confident her prophets would win convincingly. Mount Carmel was chosen as the meeting place, a visible hill where large crowds could gather and witness whatever happened there. Word spread quickly, drawing villagers, leaders, farmers, and curious onlookers who desperately wanted answers after years of hardship. Jezebel sent hundreds of Baal's prophets, richly dressed and confident, believing their numbers alone would display strength and divine favor. Elijah arrived alone, which seemed foolish to some observers, yet his calm confidence quietly unsettled those expecting dramatic intimidation. Before the test began, Elijah addressed the crowd, asking how long they would hesitate between two beliefs instead of choosing clearly. His question pierced many hearts because people knew they had been wavering, trying to please both political power and spiritual truth. The challenge was simple yet serious. Each side would prepare a sacrifice, but no fire would be lit by human hands at all. Whichever God answered by sending fire from heaven would be recognized publicly as the true and living God of Israel. The crowd agreed, sensing that this moment might finally end confusion and bring clarity after years of silent skies. Jezebel herself did not attend openly, but her influence was present through the prophets she strongly supported and protected. As preparations began, tension filled the air because everyone understood the outcome would reshape both religion and royal authority. Elijah repaired an old altar dedicated to God, symbolizing restoration, while Baal's prophets built theirs with elaborate ceremony and music. Morning light turned slowly toward afternoon, and anticipation grew as people watched closely, knowing history was unfolding before them. Though confident outwardly, some of Baal's prophets secretly feared failure because years of drought had already shaken their certainty deeply. Elijah remained calm, quietly trusting God, while many in the crowd began reconsidering everything they once accepted without question. Thus the stage was set for a dramatic encounter that would challenge Jezebel's influence, test Israel's faith, and reveal powerful lessons. The prophets of Baal began first, calling loudly from morning until noon, dancing around their altar, hoping their God would answer. They shouted prayers, sang chants, and pleaded desperately, yet the sky stayed silent, giving no fire, no sign, and no response at all. Hours passed slowly under the hot sun, and the watching crowd began whispering, wondering why nothing seemed to be happening. Elijah even spoke calmly, suggesting perhaps Baal was distracted or asleep, words that made some laugh but angered the prophets deeply. Their desperation grew, and they cried louder, even injuring themselves in ritual acts, believing sacrifice might force a supernatural answer. Still, nothing happened, and the long drought seemed to echo their failure, reminding everyone how powerless their efforts truly were. By evening, exhaustion showed on their faces, and confidence faded as the crowd's attention slowly shifted toward Elijah. Elijah then stepped forward quietly, inviting the people to come closer so they could clearly witness what would happen next. He repaired God's altar carefully, using 12 stones to represent Israel's tribes, symbolizing unity that had long been broken. To remove doubt, he poured large amounts of water over the sacrifice, soaking everything so deeply it seemed impossible to burn. The trench around the altar filled with water, making the coming moment even more dramatic and humanly impossible to explain. Then Elijah prayed simply, asking God to reveal himself so the people would know the truth and turn their hearts back again. Suddenly fire fell from heaven, burning the sacrifice, the wood, the stones, and even drying up the water instantly before everyone. Shock swept through the crowd, and many fell face down, openly declaring that the God of Israel alone was truly powerful. This moment broke years of confusion, proving that sincere faith mattered more than numbers, rituals, or royal political support. The prophets of Baal lost credibility completely, and the people recognized how far they had drifted from their original beliefs. Elijah encouraged the nation to renew their commitment to God, reminding them that spiritual direction shapes a nation's future deeply. Soon after, dark clouds gathered, and rain finally began falling, ending the long drought that had troubled the land severely. Farmers rejoiced, families celebrated, and hope returned. Yet Elijah knew not everyone would welcome this spiritual turning point. News of the event traveled quickly to Queen Jezebel, carried by anxious servants who feared how she might respond. When she heard how Baal's prophets had failed publicly, her anger rose sharply, and she felt personally challenged and humiliated. Instead of reflecting calmly, she focused on revenge, believing Elijah threatened her authority, her beliefs, and her influence over Ahab. She sent a strong message promising Elijah would die soon, a threat meant to restore fear and silence his growing influence. Elijah, though courageous before crowds, suddenly felt human fear, realizing how dangerous royal anger could become very quickly. He fled into the wilderness, tired emotionally and physically, questioning whether his efforts had truly changed the nation at all. Alone under a desert tree, he prayed honestly, expressing exhaustion and discouragement that even strong believers sometimes experience. Yet God provided rest, food, and gentle reassurance, reminding Elijah his work still mattered even when results seemed uncertain. Strengthened again, Elijah continued his journey quietly, learning that faith includes both bold public moments and private healing seasons. Back in the palace, Jezebel worked carefully to rebuild influence, encouraging Ahab to stay firm despite recent public embarrassment. Ahab remained emotionally divided, sometimes recognizing truth yet often choosing comfort and peace at home over difficult spiritual decisions. Many Israelites also struggled internally, inspired by the miracle yet unsure how fully to change long-standing habits and loyalties. This showed how dramatic events can open hearts, but lasting transformation usually requires consistent commitment over time and reflection. Jezebel, however, focused less on reflection and more on maintaining control, believing authority must never appear weak publicly. Her leadership style valued strength and loyalty, yet it sometimes ignored humility, which often helps leaders grow wiser gradually. Elijah's experience revealed another lesson, that even brave people sometimes feel afraid, but fear does not cancel genuine faith. The contrast between Elijah's humility and Jezebel's determination created tension that would continue shaping Israel's unfolding national story. Ordinary citizens watched carefully, knowing royal decisions affected everything from worship practices to daily economic stability and safety. Some quietly returned to God wholeheartedly, while others waited cautiously, unsure how future political winds might shift again. The rain restored the land physically, but spiritual restoration would require patience, courage, and honest choices from both leaders and people. And so the conflict between prophetic faith and royal ambition continued, setting the stage for even deeper challenges ahead. After the rain returned and life seemed calmer, another serious event unfolded that revealed how power can test character deeply. Near King Ahab's palace in Jezreel lived a man named Naboth, who owned a vineyard passed down carefully through generations. The vineyard was not just land to Naboth, because it represented family heritage, identity, and faithfulness to ancestral tradition. Ahab admired the vineyard often and thought it would make a perfect garden, so he approached Naboth with a respectful offer. He promised either better land elsewhere or a fair payment, believing the request sounded reasonable and politically harmless. Naboth answered politely but firmly, explaining that his family inheritance was sacred and could not be sold or exchanged. This refusal disappointed Ahab greatly, and instead of handling it maturely, he returned home upset and emotionally withdrawn. He lay on his bed facing the wall, refusing food, showing how even powerful leaders sometimes struggle with unmet desires. Jezebel noticed his mood quickly and asked what troubled him, determined to understand and, if possible, solve the problem. When Ahab explained Naboth's refusal, Jezebel reacted differently, seeing the issue not emotionally but politically and strategically. She questioned why a king should accept refusal, suggesting authority meant obtaining what seemed beneficial for royal comfort. Her thinking reflected her upbringing, where strong rulers rarely accepted denial, especially from ordinary citizens without influence. Ahab listened quietly, perhaps uncertain, yet he did not stop her when she began planning a decisive solution. Jezebel wrote official letters using Ahab's seal, instructing local leaders to arrange a public accusation against Naboth quickly. She ordered them to place false witnesses who would accuse Naboth of serious wrongdoing, ensuring swift legal condemnation. The local leaders obeyed, whether from fear, loyalty, or political pressure, showing how systems can fail when courage disappears. Naboth was accused publicly, judged hastily, and sentenced severely, despite lacking real evidence or fair opportunity to defend himself. Soon afterward he died, and the vineyard legally passed to the crown, making the acquisition appear officially justified. Jezebel informed Ahab calmly that the vineyard was now his, encouraging him to claim it without hesitation or guilt. Ahab went to see it, perhaps relieved yet inwardly uneasy, sensing that events had unfolded with troubling moral implications. At that very moment Elijah received a message from God, directing him to confront Ahab about this hidden injustice. Elijah met the king near the vineyard, speaking courageously despite knowing confrontation with rulers often carried personal danger. He declared that injustice never stays hidden forever, and actions taken in secret eventually face moral accountability openly. Elijah warned that both Ahab and Jezebel would face serious consequences because leadership carries responsibility beyond personal comfort. Ahab responded with mixed emotions, sometimes defensive yet also aware deep inside that the prophet's words contained truth. This encounter showed how conscience can speak quietly even when external power seems strong and publicly unquestioned. Jezebel, however, remained firm, believing strength meant never admitting weakness, even when ethical boundaries were clearly crossed. The people of Israel heard fragments of the story, and many quietly reflected on justice, leadership, and national direction. Some feared speaking openly, while others prayed privately, hoping future leadership would balance authority with humility and fairness. Elijah's warning did not bring instant change, but it planted seeds of awareness that would shape future events significantly. Ahab occasionally showed regret afterward, suggesting that even flawed leaders can recognize mistakes when confronted honestly. Yet true transformation requires sustained action, and temporary regret alone rarely repairs harm already done to innocent people. Naboth's story became a reminder that personal rights and dignity deserve protection regardless of social or political status. It also showed how advisors influence leaders strongly, making wisdom in companionship an essential part of responsible leadership. Jezebel's determination revealed impressive strength, yet strength without compassion often produces fear rather than genuine loyalty. Elijah's courage illustrated another truth, that moral voices sometimes stand alone but still shape history profoundly. Israel continued forward, carrying both restored rainfall and unresolved moral tension within its leadership structures. Families discussed the events quietly, teaching younger generations about integrity, courage, and the cost of compromised justice. Though the vineyard changed ownership, its story lingered, reminding many that material gain never fully erases ethical consequences. This chapter closed with uneasy calm, as hidden consequences slowly formed, preparing the way for the final turning points ahead.